Night drapes the mountains in velvet black, the river whispering secrets of its journey as it slips past rocks and reeds. A lone warrior kneels on the bank, back straight, shoulders relaxed, eyes closed. His body is steady, yet his mind is a storm. Thoughts ricochet, memories of failure, flashes of fear, the constant whisper of ego claiming he is not enough. Each image is a wave, each fear a current pulling him away from calm. He inhales slowly, trying to anchor himself, but control is fleeting. The dojo within the secluded monastery is cold and dim, yet there is a presence that warms the air. The mentor enters silently, a figure whose calm seems to bend reality around him. Every movement measured, every glance deliberate. The warrior senses the contrast, his own turbulence mirrored against the mentor's serenity. The master's voice breaks the silence. The battle you fight is not against others. It is here. He points subtly to the chest, then the head, indicating mind and spirit. Before you can command the world, you must first still the storm within. The first exercises are deceptively simple. Sit, observe, breathe. Watch thoughts as they arise and pass. No reaction, no judgment, no interference. The warrior struggles immediately. The mind rebels, restless, demanding, clinging to distractions. Every breath draws his attention outward rather than inward. He feels frustration flare, a surge of ego whispering, "This is useless. You should be doing more." The mentor's calm presence serves as a tether, guiding without force, teaching without lecture. The warrior slowly notices that awareness itself is a weapon, an edge that cuts through the chaos when wielded steadily. Movement is introduced next. The warrior practices slow, deliberate shifts, lifting a hand, pivoting a foot, breathing with each motion. In this deliberate slowness, he begins to notice the impulses that drive haste, the desire to finish, to impress, to avoid discomfort. Taoist wisdom whispers through these motions. The river flows not by force, yet it carves valleys. The storm contains energy, yet it can be directed. The mentor observes silently, occasionally correcting posture, occasionally pausing to allow reflection. Each small adjustment is a mirror to the warrior's inner state. Tension in the body, tightness in thought, resistance to stillness. Fear surfaces next. Not the fear of an external opponent, but the fear of self-exposure, the recognition of weakness, of unmastered impulses, of uncontrolled mind. The warrior is forced to watch these reactions as they emerge, noting the flinch of the heart, the tightening of the jaw, the rush of thoughts trying to take over. Here, the mentor interjects. Fear is a signal, not a prison. Observe it. Do not act on it. Do not resist it. Understand it. This is your first command over chaos. Hours pass, or perhaps days. Time is irrelevant in this place of quiet vigilance. The warrior experiences small victories. A thought noticed and released, a panic met with calm breath, a flash of ego observed without engagement. Each success is subtle, invisible to the eye, but profound to the spirit. The storm within does not vanish, but its waves become navigable, its currents detectable, its energy harnessable. By night's end, the warrior sits alone by the river once more. The water moves, the air hums with life, yet something has shifted. He has glimpsed the beginning of control over his inner turbulence. Awareness, patience, and deliberate observation are now tools, not burdens. Stillness is no longer merely a pause, it is a position of power. Transition to Part 2. As the warrior continues under the mentor's guidance, the exercises deepen, the challenges grow, and he begins to perceive silence not as emptiness, but as a force capable of transforming chaos into clarity. The next morning, mist clings to the edges of the monastery like a veil, softening the world, yet sharpening perception. The warrior returns to practice, now more attuned to the subtle stirrings of thought and emotion. Each inhale and exhale is examined, each heartbeat a metronome for presence. The mentor's instruction is minimal. Witness, do not act. Observe, do not judge. Let the mind reveal itself, and the spirit will learn. These words echo as the warrior faces the internal battlefield of his own consciousness. New exercises are introduced. Slow walking through the gardens, movement synchronized with breath, and seated meditation beside the flowing river. The chaos within does not vanish, but it becomes a teacher. Moments of fear, doubt, or restlessness arise, and the warrior practices observing them without interference. He begins to notice patterns. Certain thoughts always arise in response to pressure. Certain impulses always follow fatigue. Certain fears always accompany challenge. Recognition brings insight. Awareness is no longer passive. It begins to guide, to illuminate, to clarify. The mentor challenges him further, presenting situations that subtly provoke the mind. Sudden interruptions, unexpected tasks, moments designed to trigger impatience or irritation. Each test exposes lingering attachments and unexamined reactions. Yet the warrior now approaches them differently. Where once the mind would spiral, he now anchors in breath. Where once ego would react, he now observes. Where once chaos would dictate, he now directs. Small victories compound. Patience stretches, clarity sharpens, composure deepens. By afternoon, the warrior practices observation even during exertion. He moves through complex sequences of posture and movement, noting each tension, each impulse to rush, each mental distraction. Taoist principles guide the process. Energy flows where attention goes, stillness contains movement. Chaos is the seed of order when consciously directed. The warrior senses a transformation. His inner turbulence, while not absent, has become malleable. Oh, stream he can navigate rather than a storm he must endure. Evening arrives. He sits again by the river, the cool water reflecting the moonlight, and for the first time he perceives silence as more than absence of sound. Silence is structure. Silence is awareness. Silence is the sword that cuts the illusions of the mind. The storm within is no longer a tyrant but a partner, its energy ready to be channeled, its currents readable, its chaos understood. The mentor, observing from a distance, finally speaks. You have seen the mind as it truly is. You have begun to witness fear, ego, and distraction without surrender. This as the first step. But the path ahead will test not only your awareness, but your ability to act within the storm, to transform observation into mastery. Transition to Chapter 2. With awareness rooted, the warrior will now learn that stillness itself is a weapon, a means to transform turbulence into calm, focused power. Dawn seeps softly through the bamboo grove, each shaft of light catching the morning mist. The warrior kneels on the cold earth, eyes closed, fingers resting lightly on his knees. The river murmurs beside him, an ever-present reminder of motion and impermanence. Yet within, the mind resists calm. Thoughts claw for attention, ego whispers complaints, fear flares in subtle, insistent pulses. The mentor watches silently, his presence a stabilizing force that seems to slow the air itself. The exercises begin simply. Slow, deep breaths, each inhalation and exhalation counted and felt. Attention is drawn to the rise and fall of the chest, the flow of air through the nostrils, the rhythm of the heartbeat. At first, the warrior's mind is restless, scattering across memories, anxieties, and imagined scenarios. Each attempt at focus is met with internal chatter, impatience, or irritation. He wants movement, action, results. But the Taoist path demands stillness. The mentor's words arrive quietly. Stillness is not passivity. It is clarity in motion's absence. It is the mind sharpened, the spirit aligned. Slow movement follows, deliberate stepping, shifting weight, rotating the body with consciousness at every joint, every tendon, every breath. Each motion, though minimal, is magnified through attention. The warrior begins to feel the subtle currents of inner chaos, the impulses to hurry, to judge, to resist, against the deliberate flow of body and mind. He learns that stillness is active, a force that organizes perception, channels energy, and clarifies action. Each careful step, each controlled gesture becomes a lesson in presence. The mentor introduces silence in speech and thought. No external commands, no internal dialogue. The warrior faces discomfort he had never acknowledged. Boredom, impatience, anxiety, the trembling of ego craving control. Each sensation is observed without reaction. The Taoist principle becomes tangible. Energy is directed not through opposition, but through alignment. The mind, once scattered like autumn leaves in wind, begins to settle into discernible patterns. Chaos is not erased. It is mirrored, understood, and allowed to flow without obstruction. Hours pass in this rhythm. Breath, movement, attention, observation. At first subtle, the effects begin to accumulate. The warrior notices moments when the mind does not race, when impulses to react fade, when fear surfaces but does not dictate action. Awareness sharpens, presence deepens. He perceives the Taoist paradox. By surrendering to the present moment, by embracing stillness, he gains mastery over the inner currents that once threatened to overwhelm him. The river beside him is no longer a backdrop, but a teacher. Each ripple and current a reflection of his own internal patterns. By the day's end, the warrior senses that stillness is more than a practice. It is a form of power. A mind unshaken by distraction, a spirit unclouded by fear, a body moved by intention. This is the silent strength of the Taoist warrior. He begins to see that mastery arises not from forcing control, but from harmonizing with the flow, transforming turbulence into calm clarity. Transition to Part 2. As the warrior deepens his practice, he will encounter challenges that test the ability to maintain stillness under pressure, proving that calm is not only refuge, but weapon. Night descends again over the monastery, and the warrior sits on the riverbank, motionless, listening to the water slip over stones. The day's practice has left his body fatigued, yet the mind is quieter, steadier. Where once thoughts clattered like falling debris, now they rise and dissolve like mist over the water. Observed, acknowledged, released. The mentor's gaze, calm and unwavering, reminds him that stillness is not simply absence of motion, but the mastery of attention. New challenges are introduced. The warrior must maintain awareness through simulated disturbances, sudden shouts, unexpected shifts in environment, subtle temptations of comfort or distraction. Each test is designed to provoke habitual reaction. Each time the mind wanders, the breath, the posture, and the observation serve as an anchor. Slowly, the warrior notices a shift. Stillness becomes resilience. It is not a fragile pause, but a quiet power able to withstand internal and external turbulence alike. The exercises expand to controlled movement under observation. Walking along narrow paths, balancing on uneven stones, performing martial sequences with slow, deliberate precision, the warrior integrates breath, body, and mind. With each step, he experiences Taoist insight firsthand. Chaos is energy, not enemy. Surrender to the present yields control. The mind that is still commands the storm. Fear, which once tugged insistently at his attention, is now acknowledged but does not dominate. Ego's whispers are heard but disregarded. Through repetition, silence, and deliberate attention, the warrior experiences the first real sense of inner mastery. His mind, once restless, holds clarity. His body, once reactive, moves with precision. His spirit, once scattered, aligns with purpose. Presence becomes not an occasional state, but the default. The river, the trees, the sound of his own breath. They are all instruments in the orchestration of awareness. As the mentor steps forward, placing a hand lightly on the warrior's shoulder, the lesson crystallizes. True power lies not in force or motion, but in calm awareness, in the ability to act decisively from stillness. The warrior has glimpsed the Taoist principle that will define the rest of his path. Stillness is the sword that directs energy, the anchor that steadies mind, and the vessel that channels inner chaos into deliberate, unstoppable strength. Transition to Chapter 3. With stillness mastered, the warrior now faces fear directly, learning that courage is not the absence of danger, but conscious action within it. The first light of dawn glints across jagged rocks as the warrior steps onto a narrow mountain path, the river roaring below. Every instinct warns him of danger: the height, the uneven ground, the precarious edges. Yet his body moves with measured precision, breath aligned with each step, mind observing without panic. The mentor follows silently, a shadow of calm, his presence a quiet affirmation that fear is not the enemy, it is a teacher. The first trial begins simply: balance and breath under exposure. One misstep could trigger catastrophe, yet the warrior's focus narrows to the rhythm of each inhale, the placement of each foot. Thoughts of failure surface, ego whispers of inadequacy, and fear pulses through every muscle. But stillness, honed in previous training, serves as armor. The warrior learns the first lesson of confronting fear. Awareness does not eliminate danger. It allows precise navigation through it. Next, the mentor introduces simulated combat under stress. The warrior faces opponents trained to provoke panic, strikes that demand split-second judgment, feints that challenge perception, pressure that tests composure. Heart races, muscles tense, adrenaline floods. But the warrior practices presence, allowing observation to precede action. Taoist insight manifests. Energy is not wasted in reaction. Chaos is redirected into deliberate, measured movement. Each strike, each block, each pivot is an exercise in transforming fear into focused power. Isolation is the next crucible. The warrior meditates for hours on cliff edges, beneath the torrent of the river, or in shadowed groves where sound and vision are minimal. His mind is left to confront itself. Anxiety rises, memories of past failures echo, and ego seeks to escape through distraction. Yet the warrior does not flee. He observes. Fear becomes a mirror, reflecting attachment, hesitation, and unresolved tension. Slowly, he understands. Courage is not the absence of fear, but deliberate action in its presence. Evening finds the Warrior at the river's edge again, gaze fixed on the turbulent water. Previously, he might have seen chaos as threat. Now, he sees it as potential. The current of the river mirrors the currents of the mind, unpredictable, powerful, and alive. Through practice, he has learned to move with the flow, to channel energy rather than resist it. Small victories emerge, heart steady under pressure, breath controlled amidst panic, thought clear where once there was only turmoil. By nightfall, the warrior senses the subtle transformation. Fear is no longer an external tyrant or an internal prison. It is a guide, illuminating weaknesses, sharpening awareness, and demanding presence. Action arises not from panic, but from intention. Movement is not reaction, but response. The Taoist principle becomes tangible. The mind that can navigate fear consciously commands the currents of chaos, rather than being swept away. Transition to Part 2. As trials deepen, the warrior will confront more potent fears, learning to harness inner turbulence as energy and transform hesitation into unstoppable flow. Night descends, and the warrior faces his most formidable test yet. A narrow ledge above the roaring river, blindfolded, guided only by the flow of his breath and the subtle cues of his body. Every instinct screams to retreat. The mind races with visions of failure, ego shouts of inadequacy, and fear pulses like wildfire through his veins. Yet he recalls the lessons of stillness and presence. Each breath is deliberate, each step intentional. Chaos is not denied. It is observed, measured, and directed. The mentor's voice cuts through the roar. Fear is energy. Harness it, do not resist it. The warrior focuses, letting fear inform but not dictate action. A foot slips, heart pounds, yet he recovers, moving with a fluidity that surprises even him. This is the essence of Taoist mastery, confronting fear not with brute force, but with alignment of mind, body, and spirit. Fear becomes an ally, revealing weaknesses to correct, gaps in awareness to close, and opportunities to act decisively. Following this, controlled combat exercises are intensified. Opponents simulate unpredictable chaos, forcing the warrior to make split-second decisions under extreme pressure. Every miscalculation teaches, every successful adjustment reinforces presence. The Taoist principle of flow crystallizes. Resistance is futile, observation is power, and disciplined response is mastery. Adrenaline remains, yet it is channeled, no longer destructive but precise, intentional and harmonious with action. Beyond physical trials, the mentor imposes mental isolation. Hours of silent meditation in darkness, without distraction or comfort, confront the warrior with the mind's deepest fears: failure, insignificance, and self-doubt. Panic surfaces, memories of past mistakes erupt, yet he remains seated, anchored in breath and presence. The mind that once fled now observes, directs, and integrates fear into conscious action. Ego's whispers of retreat are noted but ignored. Gradually, fear loses dominion. Clarity emerges. By the end of the chapter, the warrior moves with an inner calm previously unattainable. Fear has transformed from tyrant to teacher, from paralyzing force to guiding current. Every motion is deliberate. Every decision arises from awareness, not reflex. Every breath contains focus. He has discovered that courage is cultivated, not inherited, and mastery is forged in the deliberate engagement with fear. Transition to Chapter 4. With fear no longer a master, the warrior now immerses fully in disciplined repetition, transforming presence into unshakable flow and chaos into precise action. The morning fog lingers over the training grounds as the warrior steps onto the open dojo floor, body coiled, senses alert. The lessons of stillness and fear converge here. Yet the mentor now demands more. Relentless repetition, disciplined alignment of body, mind, and spirit. Each movement is deliberate. Stances, strikes, blocks, footwork, all executed with precision, attention, and unwavering awareness. Fatigue begins almost immediately. Muscles scream, and the mind urges shortcuts. Yet the Taoist principle guides him. Flow is forged in structure. Energy is sharpened through repetition. Mastery grows in monotony. The exercises are rigorous. Breathwork is synchronized with each motion. Visualization accompanies every step, every strike imagined, not as performance, but as intentional, precise action. The warrior begins to notice the interplay of subtle forces, balance and gravity, tension and release, intention and reaction. Repetition becomes a laboratory where the chaos of the mind is channeled into purposeful motion. Each iteration refines not only the body, but the mind, gradually merging awareness with action. Discipline is exacting, testing patience and resilience. The warrior stumbles repeatedly, yet the mentor intervenes sparingly, correcting only what is essential, allowing failure to teach. Pain surfaces, not only physical, but the strain of focus, the fatigue of attention, the resistance of habit. Yet each challenge is an opportunity. The Taoist philosophy becomes concrete. Energy is neither suppressed nor wasted. It is directed, concentrated, and applied through continuous mindful effort. The warrior senses his body beginning to remember motion, the way the mind remembers stillness. Each movement integrated with awareness, each thought aligned with purpose. Hours blur into days. The dojo echoes with the quiet rhythm of disciplined practice. The warrior begins to perceive subtle shifts within himself. Breath steadier, posture more resilient, movements more fluid, awareness more encompassing. Where once inner turbulence demanded reaction, now it is acknowledged, absorbed, and directed into flow. Each repetition, though unseen and often solitary, reinforces mastery. Strength arises not from brute effort, but from alignment, attention, and the invisible work of disciplined practice. The mentor introduces layered challenges, sequences performed under varying conditions, attention held under duress, simultaneous coordination of body, mind, and perception. The warrior struggles, falters, and then integrates each failure into greater understanding. The monotony becomes a forge, fatigue becomes a teacher, patience becomes a tool. Through this relentless rhythm, he experiences Taoist insight in practice. Mastery is invisible, yet its effects are unmistakable, evident in the seamless fusion of presence, intention, and action. By the close of the day, the warrior senses a profound transformation. His inner turbulence is quieter, his mind clearer, his body coordinated, his spirit aligned. Discipline is no longer a burden. It is a flowing current, a source of unseen power, a conduit for presence. The groundwork for mastery has been laid, yet the path ahead will demand deeper integration of ego, attention, and the subtle currents of self. Transition to Part 2. As the warrior's body and mind align, he will confront the final tests of ego and self-perception, integrating all lessons into a coherent mastery of presence and action. Night falls over the dojo, lanterns casting long shadows across polished wood. The warrior, exhausted yet alert, continues the sequences, each movement a meditation in motion. The body remembers what the mind has learned: balance, timing, and the harmony between intention and action. Fatigue, once a signal to quit, is now a teacher whispering lessons of endurance, focus, and resilience. Each repetition reinforces not only skill, but the deeper rhythm of the Taoist path. Flow arises from disciplined structure. Presence emerges through consistent effort. The mentor introduces simultaneous mental and physical challenges. The warrior must perform intricate sequences while observing minute changes in environment, the rustle of leaves, the flicker of light, the subtle shift of an opponent's stance. Attention fractures, yet stillness and awareness honed through previous training anchor him. He begins to see that discipline is not confinement, it is liberation. The mind, previously scattered by fear or desire, now operates with precision. The body, once reactive, now moves with intention. The spirit, once anxious, now flows effortlessly with the current of practice. Fatigue and monotony are constant companions. The warrior learns to push beyond them without attachment, treating each strain, each repetition, as fuel for mastery rather than punishment. The Taoist principle of non-resistance manifests. The warrior moves through challenge, not against it. He channels the turbulence of the inner world into decisive, harmonious action. Small successes accumulate invisibly, yet their effect is undeniable. Clarity, calm, coordination, and confidence grow quietly within. By the chapter's end, the warrior has internalized the rhythm of disciplined flow. Presence is no longer intermittent. It saturates every gesture, thought, and breath. Fear and distraction are acknowledged, but no longer directive. The Taoist ideal of unity, mind, body, and spirit in seamless alignment, is experienced firsthand. The warrior now moves with quiet confidence, his actions precise yet effortless, his attention unbroken, his energy controlled. Transition to Chapter 5. With discipline and flow mastered, the final confrontation with ego awaits, challenging the warrior to integrate all he has learned into awareness, humility, and unshakable presence. Dawn filters through the bamboo, casting long, sharp shadows across the training yard. The warrior stands before a still pool of water, eyes fixed on his reflection. Every contour, every line, every subtle twitch in the mirror reminds him of the mind he carries. Pride, desire, and the subtle illusions that once guided his actions. The mentor observes silently, a shadow of stillness and authority. The final opponent is within, the mentor says. Not muscle, not skill, but ego. The warrior begins a sequence of exercises designed to confront the self directly. Sparring with an opponent who mirrors his own movements, he notices impatience rising, pride fueling forceful strikes, and subtle defensiveness clouding awareness. Each hesitation is a reflection of past habits, each failed block a symptom of attachment. The Taoist philosophy teaches that mastery is not domination, but alignment. Strength is not assertion, but harmony with the moment. Reflection exercises follow. Sitting by the river, the warrior observes thoughts and impulses without judgment. Desire for quick mastery, fear of failure, and the urge to control outcomes surface repeatedly. Ego had once whispered excuses, disguised weakness, and lured him from the path. Now he sees these illusions clearly, acknowledging them as part of the self, but refusing their authority. Presence becomes the sword that cuts distraction, while awareness becomes the shield that maintains balance. Controlled combat intensifies. The mentor pushes the warrior to respond without hesitation, to allow movement to emerge naturally without interference from pride or fear. Each strike and block becomes an exercise in self-transcendence. Ego, once dominant, is now observed, transformed into a tool rather than a tyrant. The warrior begins to embody a paradox central to Taoist mastery. True power arises not from asserting the self, but from dissolving its interference, allowing action to flow through discipline and awareness. Gradually, the warrior integrates lessons from silence, fear, and flow into coherent presence. Pride no longer dictates force. Desire no longer disrupts calm. Hesitation is replaced by instinctive, mindful response. The reflection in the water is no longer a distraction, but a guide, a mirror revealing both limitation and progress, weakness and emerging strength. Each confrontation with ego strips away illusion, leaving the warrior closer to unity of mind, body, and spirit. By evening, the warrior senses the first true harmony within himself. Ego has become servant, fear a guide, and presence the master. His reflection no longer incites agitation. It radiates the quiet authority of disciplined awareness. Strength is no longer a show of force, but a state of being, fluid, resilient, and aligned with Taoist principles. Transition to Part 2. The warrior will now face the culminating challenge, integrating stillness, fear, discipline, and ego into complete mastery, embodying the silent warrior in action. Night falls over the monastery, and the warrior faces the ultimate test of integration. The mentor arranges a series of exercises combining meditation, combat, and awareness under pressure. Each movement, each strike, each breath is an invitation to confront ego in real time. Pride surfaces with every successful maneuver. Frustration rises with every failure. Yet now, the warrior recognizes these reactions instantly. Awareness becomes the guiding principle. Ego is no longer master, but instrument, a tool to refine precision, presence, and intention. Sparring becomes a meditation in motion. The opponent anticipates, provokes, and challenges every instinct. The warrior responds not with haste, not with resistance, but with calibrated, flowing action. Every strike is informed by observation, every defense guided by presence. Ego whispers to dominate, to force results, yet he listens without obeying, channeling energy rather than succumbing to desire. The Taoist principle of harmony manifests fully. Power arises from alignment, not assertion. Mastery emerges from awareness, not compulsion. Reflection continues after each sequence. The warrior contemplates failures and successes alike, seeing them as mirrors of the self. Every moment of pride, every flicker of impatience, every attachment that once guided him is now acknowledged, integrated, and released. Strength is measured not in aggression, but in composure. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the disciplined navigation of it. Presence is not control, but alignment with the flow of life. By the end of the night, the warrior moves through exercises with a quiet authority. Ego no longer fractures awareness. Fear no longer dictates motion. Discipline, stillness, and presence converge into seamless flow. The reflection in the water that once intimidated him now mirrors a warrior transformed, attentive, humble, and completely present. Every motion is precise, every breath deliberate, every thought aligned. The mentor finally nods, silent approval in his gaze. The warrior has integrated all lessons, silence, fear, flow, and ego, into coherent mastery. Presence is unbroken, mind calm, body aligned, spirit steady. The Taoist path is embodied. The warrior moves not in reaction to the world, but in harmony with it, commanding inner chaos rather than being commanded by it. Transition to Chapter 6. With ego mastered, the warrior steps into the final trial, where all lessons converge into living mastery. The emergence of the silent warrior, fully present, disciplined, and unshakable. Dawn breaks slowly over the valley, the first light spilling like liquid gold across the river and bamboo groves. The warrior stands alone, feet grounded, breath steady, eyes scanning the horizon. This is the culminating test, not of strength alone, but of integration, presence, and mastery of the inner world. Every lesson learned, the stillness, the flow, the discipline, the confrontation with fear, the understanding of ego, now converges in this moment. The mentor observes from a distance, silent, eyes calm but piercing, knowing that the final transformation can only be realized by the warrior himself. The challenge begins subtly. A simulated duel unfolds, designed not to overpower, but to provoke, to test the alignment of mind, body, and spirit under pressure. Opponents move unpredictably, presenting scenarios that could trigger fear, impatience, or ego-driven reaction. The warrior, however, responds with deliberate calm. His breath anchors him. His movements are precise and economical. Each action arises naturally from observation and presence, rather than from reflex or desire to dominate. Every step, every strike, every block is infused with the Taoist principle of flow. Resistance is absorbed, energy redirected. Chaos is transformed into purposeful motion. The warrior's mind no longer races, it observes, calculates, and acts. Fear surfaces, as it always does, but it is noted without judgment and utilized as information rather than a command. Ego, too, whispers for assertion or dominance, yet it is acknowledged and set aside. What emerges is a warrior who moves with quiet authority, unshakable in presence, harmonious in thought, and aligned in body. Beyond combat, the mentor tests subtlety and patience. The warrior navigates complex physical and mental challenges that require adaptation and stillness. Each trial is designed to provoke, to tempt the mind into reaction, to invite the ego to intervene. But now he remains composed. The lessons of silent observation, disciplined flow, and mindful repetition allow him to respond with clarity and intention. Actions are no longer fragmented by distraction or internal chaos. They are seamless, precise, and effective. By midday, the warrior embodies a state previously unattainable. He walks the thin line between stillness and action, fear and courage, discipline and freedom. Each breath carries awareness. Each motion radiates calm authority. The chaos of the inner world is not gone. It has been harnessed, understood, and integrated. The river beside him flows without interruption, a mirror of his own mind, turbulent yet directed, powerful yet serene. Transition to Part 2. As the final duel reaches its zenith, the warrior will demonstrate the complete synthesis of Taoist principles, revealing the full emergence of the silent warrior. The sun rises higher, casting sharp lines across the warrior's path. The final duel intensifies, yet it is no longer a test of strength or speed alone. It is a test of presence, awareness, and mastery of inner chaos. Every movement is deliberate, every breath a guide, every thought aligned with intention. Opponents strike, feint, and press, yet the warrior moves as one with the moment, flowing around attacks, anticipating openings, responding with effortless precision. The chaos that once dictated his actions now fuels his calm control. The mentor watches silently, understanding that mastery is revealed in subtlety, not spectacle. The warrior's mind is clear, his body fluid, and his spirit unshakable. Fear arises, but does not control him. Ego whispers, yet he does not obey. Discipline, repetition, and presence converge into seamless execution. Each strike, each step, each pause embodies Taoist philosophy. Strength emerges through harmony, courage through awareness, and mastery through the integration of mind, body, and spirit. Beyond the duel, the warrior moves through tests of endurance and perception, encountering scenarios that previously would have caused hesitation or distraction. Now, each challenge is met with measured observation and responsive action. He walks the line between effort and ease, exertion and surrender, demonstrating that true mastery is neither aggressive nor reactive. It is entirely present, entirely aligned, and entirely free. When the final movement concludes, silence falls. The battlefield, once a stage of potential conflict, is now a reflection of the warrior's inner state, calm, centered, and unshakable. He stands alone, a figure of quiet power, disciplined spirit, and unbroken presence. The mentor approaches and nods, an acknowledgement that words cannot convey. The warrior has internalized the Taoist path fully. Inner chaos mastered, ego disciplined, fear transformed, and presence absolute. Alone in the first light of dawn, he steps forward into the world, not as a fighter defined by external victories, but as a silent warrior whose mastery over the self renders all obstacles transient. Strength is no longer brute force. It is awareness. Power is no longer assertion. It is balance. Courage is no longer absence of fear. It is disciplined engagement. Presence is no longer fleeting. It is a constant flame illuminating every action. Closing lesson. The silent warrior commands the inner world, transforming turbulence into strength, mastering chaos through discipline, presence, and unshakable awareness.